Good morning, good afternoon, and for some of you, good evening, and welcome to the latest in the series of AGIF sustainability webinars in 2021. My name is Eric Linge, and I'm the CEO of the Asian Golf Industry Federation, and I'll be your host and facilitator for today's webinar. By way of background, the AGIF launched this series of webinars in late 2020 and ran 10 online seminars in the latter part of last year. The feedback and participation from the global industry was fantastic and gratifying to receive. And as such, webinars will now become the mainstay of our activities now and in post-COVID period of time. Most every week on Thursdays, we will continue to deliver webinars on turf and club management matters with industry leaders to supply career building information to industry professionals in Asia and the rest of the world. We have a great lineup of speakers generously willing to share their time and expertise with us. A bit about the AGIF. The Asian Golf Industry Federation is a not-for-profit membership federation comprised of suppliers and facilities in the turf, club, and sports industry. The federation focuses on building sustainable practices, both in environmental and economic aspects throughout the Asia-Pacific region. We strongly believe that key in the development of a sustainable industry is the education and empowerment of the professionals in the industry, and hence running events like this. We've developed an AGIF certificate in greenskeeping, which is supported by the RNA and 5 AGIF member organizations. The CIG focuses on developing the skill set of the greenskeeper turf professional throughout Asia. We also focus on club management education and are a partner of the Club Management Association of America. We've rolled out education in Asia for the pathway to the certified club manager degree, and the CCM is considered to be the gold standard in club management industry globally, and managers in Asia can now achieve the necessary education here in Asia as a result of this partnership with the CMAA. It is vital to have strong partners in implementing education throughout Asia, and our education is recognized for credits by the PGA of America, the PGA of GB in Ireland, the PGA of Australia, the PGA of Japan, the Club Management Association of America, and the GCSAA. Due to the travel restrictions from the COVID-19 pandemic, webinars are the only way we can continue to deliver education at the moment. We will resume education event when travel restrictions ease, and we'll keep you posted as this develops. Over the last few months, we spent a lot of time improving our digital offering and membership benefits. For more information, please log on to www.agif.asia, as well as our LinkedIn and Facebook company pages. Please also sign up for our weekly newsletter to join the 10,000 plus industry contacts and receiving weekly industry updates. The AGIF is a not-for-profit federation, and now more than ever, we rely upon membership dues to operate. So if you like what we do or you think that your facility or company will benefit from communicating with the industry, please note that our membership benefits are substantial and can be seen on our website under AGIF membership benefits. Please take a look when you have the time. And if you're already an AGIF member, thank you. Your ongoing support is greatly appreciated. And speaking of member support, we would like to thank the sponsor of today's webinar, the Toro Company. Without their long-term support, we would not be able to run events like this. So we thank you for your patronage. On to some housekeeping issues. Our speaker today, Mark Bates, will present roughly 50 to 60 minutes. We'll have about 30 minutes after that for the Q&A. The chat and Q&A buttons are on throughout, so please feel free to ask questions, which we can then voice to Mark during the Q&A session. Now on to the main event. I'd like to welcome Mr. Mark Bates, Director of Golf Operations, Laguna National Golf and Country Club. A PGA of Canada member and a golf industry veteran for over 20 years, Mark started his career working at top facilities in Alberta, Canada, working for some of the best mentors a young golf professional could ask for. Upon completion of the bachelor's degree in management from the University of Lethbridge, Mark moved to Thailand and secured a role in business development for Heartland Golf Schools, building their international programs. After a brief return to Canada, Mark made the move to the island city-state of Singapore in 2006. There, he established the Singapore branch of the Heartland Golf Schools, which he managed for over 10 years until the school's closure as the country club's land was acquired by the city infrastructure works. Mark joined the Laguna National Golf and Country Club in 2016 as Director of Golf Operations. In this time, the club took over the management of the retail operations, completed renovations of both championship courses, built the multi-million-dollar Laguna practice facility, launched the first top tracer range facility in Southeast Asia, and reintroduced the Ledbetter Golf Academy to Singapore. 2020 marked the grand opening of the newly constructed clubhouse, one of the largest green grass golf shops in Southeast Asia, and the Dusatani Laguna Singapore Resort Hotel. Today, Mark will be sharing his insight into the factors that led Laguna National making the decision to operate and manage their own golf shop, a decision that many golf clubs grapple with. Mark, welcome.
Thank you, Eric. I guess let me just get started here with our share screen. And here we go. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate the introduction. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And also thank you to Toro for helping to sponsor and support this. I think any of these opportunities for us to, as industry professionals, get together and share, it's definitely going to be beneficial for us. And so thank you. And thank you to the AGIF for facilitating. I'm just going to start off here and just add a little bit to what Eric said, just to tell you a little bit about myself. I have been working in the golf industry since I was 14 years old. When you're able to legally work in Canada, I was getting out there, shagging balls at the driving range, washing buggies, and kind of everything else that a young guy does who wants to work in the golf industry. So got started quite early. I've been working in and around golf retail though since 1998, which was my first time getting into a golf shop. So my whole career, my whole life has always been around golf. And excuse me, we'll probably, this is my logo merchandise. It's not an excuse. I did want to have a drink here. Okay. So I entered the PGA of Canada in 1999 and had been working in golf shops all my life, assistant golf professional, working my way up. And all of the facilities that I worked at, retail was a big part of it. So that gives a little bit of background as to how I got started. I did have a one-year gap where I moved to Thailand, as Eric mentioned there, working for Heartland Golf Schools. Was back in Canada again at one of the top clubs in Western Canada, and then got the call to come back to Singapore. So when I came back to Singapore and opened up Heartland Golf Schools, one of the other elements there that was left out of the introduction is that the owner also had 4 retail outlets in downtown Singapore. So I actually managed 4 outlets for a brief period between 2006 and 2008. We, for those of you that are familiar with Singapore, we had retail corners in 2 of the major department stores, Takashimaya and Isetan, right on Orchard Road. And we also had 2 standalone shops, one in Wheelock Place on Orchard Road and over at Marina Square, which is in the Suntec City area. So those shops actually I was involved in up until the middle of 2008, when after going through a lot of work and effort on that, we actually decided to close the retail shops at that point because the market wasn't very strong. There were a lot of challenges with the workplace and costs of labor and everything going up. So we closed the retail shops. And fortunately did that just before kind of the economic crash in 2008. So but still a great experience and a lot of exposure to a different level of the retail side, more in the commercial retail space as opposed to ag golf shops. In 2016, I moved to Laguna National as the director of golf. And as it sits now, I currently oversee all of our golf operations. The shop, which is the name of our retail outlet, Laguna Practice, which is our driving range. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later, but it's actually at a satellite location. Again, due to some government works here, we have a separate location for our driving range. And at that driving range, we have the Ledbetter Golf Academy, the first top tracer range facility in Southeast Asia. And as I mentioned, our satellite retail outlet. So that's a little bit about me. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Laguna National, we do have we were exclusively private country club with 2 18-hole championship courses, the Masters and the Classic. And we're actually transitioning now into a I guess you would classify it as semi-private because we still have a very strong membership base here, but are opening up the Dusitani Laguna Singapore Hotel, and now actually has been open since December. So moving into a little bit of a different configuration. We have hosted in the past European Tour, Asian Tour, and Korean LPGA events. And obviously have aspirations to continue that as we continue to open our facility and come back to a new sense of glory with the new facility. As I mentioned, Laguna Practice, it's a full functioning driving range, 50 bay floodlit range, 2 levels. Ledbetter Golf Academy, we have probably one of the best short game practice areas in all of Singapore. This is a very land-starved area, so having access to a short game area is really important for not only our members, but our academy. And of course, that also relates back to retail as well for golf club sales. Our Laguna putting, this is what we've got coming up is Laguna putting, and we got a Nicholas design putting course that's going to be coming up. Unfortunately, that's going to take a little bit of time before we can get everything installed. We're looking for technicians to come in from overseas, and with the travel restrictions, that's just coming soon. And as I mentioned, we've just opened the Dusitani Laguna Singapore Hotel. It's a 5-star accommodation with 198 rooms and suites, and a host of all kinds of event function space. That's also a little bit stunted right now, obviously with COVID measures in place. There's a lot of things that are not allowed to happen with regards to, say, corporate events and other functions, but all of this stuff is slowly coming up in Singapore as restrictions come down. Also got the Deverana Spa, swimming, tennis, and fitness center. So we're really a fully kind of integrated resort facility now. But moving on to the topic at hand, which is going to be retail, and why and how Laguna National came to the conclusion and eventually decided to open and take over our retail. That's where we'll go now. So I want to start off really by making sure that people know this is not some sort of sales pitch to say you have to run your retail. It's not easy to run a golf shop. It's not easy to run retail, but I think it is something that any facility who's ever thought about it or has struggled with it, done it themselves and decided to choose to do something else or look at the alternatives, it's definitely something that every golf facility should be considering and try to figure out what's going to work best for them. I think when I look at it, and I've spent the last 15 years here in Singapore, and there's really only ourselves and one other facility that actually run their own golf shop. Most of them don't, and the reasons why they don't are kind of covered here. A lot of people will be fearful of the unknown. And I say that because a lot of the golf clubs don't have people who have kind of the background that I might have as a PGA golf professional. They don't employ these people. So they have a lot of hospitality related people, club managers who have run clubs of various sorts, but not necessarily been in a traditional kind of golf setting where a golf professional or somebody like that would be operating a retail shop. So operating the retail is very much an unknown thing that they are a bit scared of, and that's perfectly reasonable. Another being lack of resources, and I kind of break this down to a few examples, but talent is one of them. So again, not having people in place that understand or are prepared to deal with retail, and if you don't have that, then it's going to be a very, very big challenge. In some places, it might be access to suppliers. Different markets are, and I would say probably specific to Southeast Asia, there are some different markets that are more challenging to actually get equipment in and deal directly with suppliers, and deal with people where you can get access to products. A lot of these things and a lot of places it's controlled by distributors, and those distributors end up being retailers as well, and kind of corner the market. So sometimes it's very challenging to even consider taking over the shop if you don't have access to the resources to be able to do it. And I think the other one obviously is going to be the investment capital, having access to the money to do it. Golf shops and any retail in general, there are a lot of costs, a lot of hidden costs, I would say, that people don't think about. But as far as that original and initial investment, I mean, you've got to construct the shop, you've got to do the interior fit out, you've got to get your initial inventory in, and that's not something that's easy unless you've got the cash to back it up and get things started. Never mind then actually operating it and doing it at in a profitable way, but just getting open can be a big challenge. So I think a lot of times people don't ever get over this step in itself. This one, we don't have any expertise in retail. Okay, that relates back to the talent, and again is very valid. But it is one of those things that's probably the easiest one to get over, because you can always hire somebody that does. So that's one to consider there. There's no money in retail. This is another one that I hear quite often, and probably more specific to golf. And there is some truth to that in certain areas, certain segments. For example, obviously golf clubs are something that tend to be high price, low margin, and for that reason tend to be a little bit riskier for people to have, and they're not keen to have that type of inventory and potential liability. And it can be very cutthroat. The industry can be, lots of people doing slashing sales all over the place. And if you're not experienced in retail and able to understand how that's going to go, the product life cycle, and how you're going to manage your inventory, then it could catch you off guard. So there is, however, money in retail, but you do need to have a lot of planning in hand to decide on your mix of product, and also how you're going to go through those product cycles and make sure that you're having consistent sales that do pay the bills and more. And this is another one that I hear, and I would say is very evident in Singapore. And I know other markets as well, but very much in Singapore, there's retail partners to work with. Here, most of the golf clubs will work with the MSTs, Transview, Penwest. Some of these companies that have been around for a very long time are the major commercial retailers of golf products, and it's been a good solution for people for a very long time. These people are retail experts, so having a partnership where they come in and operate on your behalf, for a lot of people, that solves the problems that we've just listed above. And for them, that might be the right solution. And that's what I kind of bring up here. These are all valid points. Like I said, this isn't a sales pitch to say you should definitely run your golf shop. This is going through how you should evaluate whether it's right for you to run your golf shop, and then to some degree, some of the things that you should be considering as to how you might make that selection, whether it's for you or not, or possibly at least have the right partner that satisfies your needs as well. So these are all valid points, and they may apply to your facility. If you are kind of looking at these going, yeah, this is me all the way, and I don't have the investment capital and everything else, then having something like a retail partner or another alternative might be the right way to go. So what I'm going to do is now just go through what I listed as kind of the main questions that we at Laguna National asked ourselves before really committing to taking this decision to take over the retail operations. And I think this is the first one. I mean, can you achieve your goals? Now, that's a very, very broad question. And I think it's something that certainly takes and will need a lot more, investigation, because the first thing is to actually decide what are your goals with your retail operation. For some people, it's going to be just the necessity of being able to sell golf balls and tees to their members or their customers to be able to get out and play golf. For other people, it's a very, very, very big part of the business. And I think you'll see as we go through that it is for us. But every different facility is going to have its own set of goals. So it's important for you to sit down and figure out what those goals are for your retail operation, or how your retail operation can contribute to other goals that you have, and help that factor into your decision. And as leading right into that, is retail merchandise a major factor in the branding of your club? Again, we're talking about, any golf club. We can be talking all the way down from a 9-hole municipal course in the middle of the prairies in Canada, or a multi-million-dollar resort course that is taking in tourists every single day. Each one of those clubs are going to have very different answers to this. And we've got every set of club and golf club in between there as well. So it's important for you to be able to look at it and go, is the merchandise something that's going to contribute to the branding of your club? And is the branding of your club important to you? I like to think that the brand of your club is important, and it should be for anyone. But some people have different thoughts on that, and who makes the decisions, whether it's a board or an owner, they may have different thoughts as well. Does your golf shop tie in with other profit centers? And this, again, for us is an important one. I think the retail aspect certainly ties in with facilities like our driving range, academy, corporate golf events, membership sales, etc. Do you have qualified staff to lead your retail shop? And, do you have people that are going to be buying into this? Because it's extremely important that you have people that are keen to actually drive it. As I mentioned before, you need talented people. And if they don't have a talent in this area, if you took on the retail operations without somebody with experience in that, then you will very much be spinning your tires. Do you have the club infrastructure that suits efficient and profitable operation? That's another one. And we're going to go into all of these points a little bit more detail here, but this is very much about, what does your clubhouse look like? Where is it? Where would you put a golf shop? Is it something that's even going to work for your customer flow, so that you can take advantage of the general operations to get people into your shop? And here's a huge one. Do you have the commitment and buy-in of your key stakeholders? I mentioned one before, that your staff are actually key stakeholders, but do you have the commitment from the people who are the decision makers at the top of your club? For some people, that's a board of directors. Do you have the commitment from them? For some people, it's an owner. Do you have the commitment from them? Because this is a long-term thing that you have to enter into, and it's something that you really, really, really have to know that you will be spending money and spending time to go into. And if they're not prepared to go through a couple of ebbs and flows, then this is going to be something that you may want to stay away from. Having the commitment of your key stakeholders is absolutely essential. And this can even go down to your suppliers as well. If you have partnerships, or you have relationships with people who are going to be the ones filling your shop, if you don't have the commitment and buy-in of them, that's also going to be very difficult, because you're not going to have anything to sell. So there's a lot of different angles to look at it. And then the last one, obviously, is, what are your alternatives? If you're not going to do it yourself, who is going to do it? What are you going to have in place for some sort of retail? I think any club needs, at the very least, that basic necessity. So I'm going to look into all of these points in a little bit more detail. Some of the information I just shared will double up a little bit, but again, it's just here to further investigate some of these things, and hopefully give you something to think about in how your own planning would be if you're looking to operate your own golf shop. So as I said, what are your goals? Well, ultimately, your board or your owners want to see some sort of results. So what do they want? Now, I've listed a few things that my owner wants, and that's, they want it to be profitable. They want the branding to be strong. They want it to contribute to the overall brand of our club. And they want to create an experience for our members and our guests and everybody that's coming to the facility. Now, as I mentioned before, there's going to be some people who their goal is just to be able to make sure that someone can have a shirt on their back when they play on the golf course, that they've got golf balls, tees, and the basics to be able to go out and play. Some are going to have something in between, where they have a decent level of selection. They've got golf clubs, they've got various apparel lines. They can do custom fitting. They can do all of those different things. I mean, the opportunities are somewhat endless, but you really need to look at what are the goals of your facility, and how are you going to try to achieve those. I think another thing is, are you in a market for adequate or significant profit, if that is a goal? There are a lot of places where, again, clubs might be in somewhat of an isolated place. It may be difficult to drive retail support in a spot where people are driving out, and I use it as an example. I won't mention names of clubs, but when I lived in Bangkok, there were clubs that were kind of on the outskirts that you would drive into, and there wasn't much there. There wasn't a practice facility. There was basically the golf course and a place to eat. A facility that has that positioning is going to have a difficult time to have a very, very strong retail presence, because people are already planning when they go out there to have everything they need before they go. And so that makes it a little bit more difficult to have people come in, want to be browsing in your shop, going for club fittings and such, because say it's so far difficult to get to, they're typically only going to go there so that they can go out and play golf. Maybe not going out there to spend much time practicing and, or having lessons or anything like that. And effectively, all of those things make a difference. The more time that somebody spends at your facility, the more chance you have of getting them into the retail space and converting. So these are some of the things that you've got to think about. Can you do better than the alternatives? And so this is one that I think eventually is the final kind of straw for a lot of facilities in Singapore, for example. They feel no. They look at it and they look at the success of some of the other clubs. They see the retail partners, for example, that have been doing it for years and years and years, and they offer good selection. They offer what they feel the club's members want and any of the visitors want. And they look at it and go, wow, there's a lot of headaches to running our own retail shop, and those guys do a pretty good job. They're happy to pay us rent to take space. And ultimately for them, it's the best decision, because it does it does take away a lot of the unknowns and variables, and gives them a sense of consistency and comfort. So these are some of the things, again, have to look at. Are you able to do a better job than the alternatives, or is it best to go in that other direction? So going on to the question about branding and reputation. The question I would ask is, how powerful is your logo, or how powerful do you want it to be? Who buys your logo? Your golf club, your identity is packaged in that logo. And a big part of that is where that logo is pasted, so to speak. Of course, we all have digital marketing and we have everything else that we do that our logo goes on, but retail is another opportunity for somebody to be purchasing something that says, I was proud to play at this facility, and they then become your walking signboards. So how powerful is your logo, and how powerful do you want it to be? If you want your logo to be very powerful, you may want to have some level of control on what it's on and where it goes. Now, if you're controlling your own retail operation, that's not a problem, because you get to control everything that it goes on. If you contract that out to another supplier, for example, then that's something that you may lose a little bit of control over. But also something you can think about if you're going into an agreement with a rental partner about a certain amount of product that your logo needs to be on, and maybe to some degree the branding and the associated clothing brands and such that your logo will be allowed to go on. Because if you think about it in this way, whatever your logo goes on is also a representation of your brand. So this is something that's very important in how it relates to retail. So is experience alone at your facility part of the brand? And I say experience as in from the time you set foot on the property, your typical golfer, and I'll say, more specifically to where I am here in Singapore right now, you drop your golf clubs at the bag drop, you go in through, you check in for your golf game, you go to a changing room, you go to maybe a restaurant for a bite to eat, then you head out to the tee box and you play golf. In many facilities here, that is the process. And in many facilities, that check-in process is completely separate from the retail experience. Now, is it important that the retail experience gets injected into that to have an overall positive experience? Again, we like to think so, because again, people are going to come to the facility. They may forget items. They may be missing things. They may want, again, to have a nice logo item for themselves or maybe as a souvenir. And so is that experience something that you control, or is it something that you pawn off to somebody else and trust them to do? And if you've got a great partner you can trust, fantastic. And there are many of them out there. But for us, it was something that we didn't want to take that chance. And that's something that we've decided to control. The logo, your branding, your reputation. Again, I think this is important for all facilities, but I think some facilities may believe it more important. Some may benefit from it and need to put a little more effort into it. It's funny because it goes across the whole spectrum of clubs. You see that there's exclusive private clubs that their branding is extremely important for them, almost to the point of secretive sometimes. You have clubs that are very busy with membership play. Again, their brand is important because they need to attract new members or keep members. Their members also want to, I think any club aspires to make their members proud to be a member of a club. And then them again, having the logo, having the merchandise and everything else with that, having the experience to say, we have a great club. When you come to our golf club, you get good service. Those are all very important things. And then right down to, like I say, the premium public play or tourist centric facilities. Obviously a place like Pebble Beach is a great example. The branding is extremely important there, and it is a public facility, right? But I wouldn't venture a guess as to how much they do in retail in a year, because I think anybody that walks in there is going to walk out with hundreds of dollars of merchandise to be able to take back to people. So how important is that branding, and how important is controlling that for your retail space? The next little bit I'm going to put up is actually just a logo I found online while I was kind of putting this presentation together, because I thought it was almost very interesting here. And I'd be interested to know what everybody's initial reaction was when they saw this. But this is obviously a very good example of how powerful branding is, because I think anybody in the golf industry immediately sees this and knows that that is supposed to be Augusta National, but it's not. Now that logo that is sitting there is a great example of how powerful a brand can be, because anybody that looks at that's in the golf industry automatically thinks of Augusta National, even though this is some different club who's tried to play on that brand. So this is something that I think, from a standpoint of branding and reputation, is something we aspire to, is to create a brand that's so recognizable and trusted and desired as a destination. And part of that for us, is having a retail location where we can have people come in and purchase quality items with our logo and get it out there and be proud to be able to say that they played at Laguna National, for example. So this is the idea of the impact on your other profit centers. Retail obviously is one element, but it can very much have an effect on many other aspects. And I've really only chosen to pick 5 things here. But in reality, if you have a first-class retail experience, can it help you in other areas? In memberships, for example, our club still sells memberships here in Singapore, and many clubs don't. They're only available to have a membership on the open market. But either which way, you're having members come into your club. They're recommending friends, et cetera, and your golf shop, if done well, I think can be a showpiece to represent yourselves and represent the quality and the overall service aspect and everything really about your club. It can help set that bar high, because in many cases, it could be the first impression of somebody when they come to your club. Things like corporate events. That's a very big moneymaker for a lot of golf clubs. And I know that a lot of places, again, that don't have that retail aspect, they are actually missing out. They're missing out on an opportunity that every time that corporate event comes for a shotgun start with 144 people, it's a very popular thing here in Singapore, and I think around the world, to have some sort of goodie bag or first tee gift. And now you control your retail, you also can control that. You now have access to a different different revenue stream that you wouldn't have if you're contracting out your golf shop. And it also offers you, again, a chance to add that recognition with your brand in your facility. You can become kind of the one-stop shop, so that a corporate event can come to you, speak to your events manager, who also looks after the retail, the goodie bag, and everything else. So it's part of the overall, again, experience now for a different group of people, maybe not our members, but to the corporate guests. And now these people feel a lot more comfortable because, one, we are the experts in every single category, and we can solve all their problems in one stop. Instead of them having to go to a golf club to organize their event, then talk to someone separate about their dinner, then talk to a different place downtown or something like that to get their goodie bags. This can be a big part of contributing to, again, another profit center within the club. Members, guests, again, that's very much about your daily spend, and also things like the souvenirs and the pride of having the logo on. It's a very powerful thing. Golf Academy. Again, golf academies are effectively creating golfers and making your members better. But those people who are becoming golfers also need golf clubs. They also need shirts. They also need golf balls. They need everything. So actually, the more that you can actually have an impact on that, and again, become a one-stop shop where you look after all of their needs, then the better chance you have for success. Being a destination for purchasing of equipment, that might be tough for a lot of places. Again, it depends on the city that you're in, depends on the clubs that are around you, depends on what the alternatives are, whether it's big box retailers like Golf Town and Golf Galaxy and these things. It's probably one of the more challenging ones to become a destination because of the big box retailers. But again, depending on your market, you may end up being the only place that sells a certain product that you've brought in from overseas. Now that becomes an advantage for you because you've got something that no one else has. So these are things that that you can actually look at and capitalize on. Really, what we're kind of looking at there is a form of vertical integration. I mean, if we have got every single area covered at the facility, from the academy that's teaching people to the product that they need, and the members that are also coming in, they need the product, and the corporates that are coming in, they need the product. And that's help selling your memberships and get people to be talking about your club. If you're controlling every aspect of it, and this even goes as far as your food and beverage and everything else, if you control it all, you can play things off one another and really, really maximize the impact that you have. And so, like I said, we're talking obviously a little bit more specific to retail as it is, but it is something that goes kind of resort wide or property wide, and how these things can be related. But also kind of note that there's not always a direct link. It's not always something that you can measure. I don't think I've ever had a member come in as a new member and say, I purchased a membership because your golf shop is good. But I have had members tell me that that was a very, very important thing to them, was they knew that they could trust the people behind the counter to help them get the right clubs that they want. I've heard members tell other members, wow, these guys have a partnership with Hugo Boss. No other golf club has that. Okay. Well, there are some that do, but again, they came into our golf shop, they saw what we have and how we set it up, and it gave them a very positive impression. So again, I don't have somebody who's signed on the dotted line for a membership, but I know it's been a positive influence and helped that side of the business as well. So move on to our next one here. Do you have qualified staff? Now this one's, I mean, all the things we're covering are extremely important, but this, I believe, ranks near the top. And the reason I say that is because, again, you can have all the resources, you can have the golf shop set up perfectly, you can have all the product in the world, you can have so much of this stuff laid out for you. But if you don't have some qualified staff to drive it and manage it, it will eventually break down. It is not an easy thing to do, to keep an eye on the inventory, to actually have a proper purchasing plan in place and deal with the suppliers and have the knowledge to be able to pass that on to your customers, to help them with their golf club, whether they need an extra stiff shaft or a regular shaft, or whether they should be using a face balanced putter or a toe balanced putter. These are the kinds of things that your average person standing behind the counter cannot do. So having someone that is qualified is extremely important. Now, I've thrown in a shameless plug here for the PGA of Canada. There's a nice logo, so I like to put it in there. But it's something that if you're operating or managing a facility and you don't have qualified staff, I put this in there because a lot of people, especially in this region, don't understand maybe or know that lots of PGAs around the world, it is a core competency for these individuals. So as a PGA of Canada member, I've had to go through an education process to get a diploma and a degree in management, which are all very important for being able to run a retail operation. But we have training specific in golf retail. Of course, a depth of product knowledge in equipment. Now, that's something that is ever changing. So it's not to say that someone who learned that 15 years ago actually has any idea about golf equipment anymore. It's completely different. But what I'm kind of getting forward here is that having someone who their life is in golf and has that background education, and more importantly, the drive and the desire to continue that education, to keep up with the latest trends and implement them in your golf shop, that's absolutely essential. And so I look at that and I think it's something that, as you're looking at individuals in key management positions, whether it's a general manager, director of golf, or even your golf operations manager, if you have these people who are not just passionate about golf, but also have some of the core training behind it, then you potentially have someone who can help lead that team, because they need to also make it, I guess, spread amongst the rest of the staff too. That person can't be standing behind the counter the entire day. So they need to have an influence on your typical staff, your typical retail staff in there. So they start to learn a little bit more about, the new Hyperflex shoe and why it's different than the previous version, how it does have a 1-year waterproof warranty. And that's going to help the people. You need to have that type of knowledge in order to actually provide what the customer wants. And so it's important to have really at least one core person in there. And I would say even more. And I can say that from personal experience. We've just recently gone through the process. We've opened up our golf shop, and a couple of weeks ago, our retail manager had to leave. He's gone back to the UK, and I would say, you know, proudly that he's going on to a really good opportunity. And you know, unfortunate for us that we lose him, but that's one of our key individuals who satisfies this area. But that person is now gone. Now, luckily myself, I'm still here. And of course, also the influence that we've had on our other team, they're able to actually continue with the mission and have the knowledge and the experience to still be able to do a great job while we look to bring that new individual in. Okay, so club infrastructure. Now, this is something that also is very important. I mentioned and kind of alluded to earlier that that if the actual location of your club may have an influence on whether people are arriving early, spending time there, able to get there easy, that type of stuff. Those are things that will have an influence on how much they spend. But I think probably a little more when I say this club infrastructure, I'm talking about within your own club. So once somebody's on the property, one, do you have an adequate space for a retail shop? I found that a lot of clubs don't have an adequate space, whether it's not big enough or not in the right location. One of the things is size is quite often a challenge, and people have a corner over on the side, and then they try to run a retail operation out of it, but their goals on what the retail operation should be as far as selection and options and such don't match the square footage that they have. And then you end up having those really, really packed, tight spaces that are not inviting and places that people don't want to go into. So having adequate space for a retail shop is extremely important if you're going to be very successful with it. I think another thing is the location being conducive to capitalize on the flow of your traffic. And you'll see later here that how I talk about Laguna National and what we have as a big benefit there. But I mean, I'll tell you a story of one club that I went to. This is about 15 years ago, and showed up to the club, and the drop off at the golf club, the bag drop, was located in the car park, kind of in the basement level. So got out of the car park and was at the check-in desk. So this is where you checked in to pay for your green fees, et cetera, et cetera. And I did that. And then I had no idea where to go from there. Now, I asked the lady, I said, so where do I go from here? And she says, well, the locker rooms are over there about 60 meters, which was to my right at the time. I said, okay. And after the locker room, well, then you go to the tee box. I said, okay, think about that. I went to the locker room, came out, realized that I needed some golf balls, and I still had no idea where I was. And so I went back to the check-in desk. I said, where is the pro shop? Well, she said, that's over at the driving range. And I said, where's the driving range? She said, well, it's about 150 meters in that direction. So I went off on my way over there to the driving range, got to the driving range, no proper signage, very, very big driving range. I looked around, I was getting late for my tee time. I didn't find the golf shop at all. And it was just an experience that was very negative to me. Also, because I had to bum some golf balls off my buddy. But ultimately, that particular facility, not a bad golf club or anything like that. But as far as having the location correct for a golf shop, it was not conducive to me as a customer going in and for them to then be successful in that retail operation. So this is something that's extremely important: is where is your golf shop, and how is it going to fall into the flow of your traffic? Okay. And then, yeah, last but not least, let's say you do have the adequate space, you have the location that's conducive. Is it ready for retail operations? And if it's not, are you having to construct it? What are you going to have to do for renovation of it? What do you need to do to actually invest in it to get it ready and have that location a viable retail outlet. Even for some clubs who have been working with a partner in the past, if that partner has left, well, now it's up to you to take over. So you've got to do something with it to help it match, help that retail operation match your goals. And in this case, it might require some investment to tidy the place up, renovate it, and get it ready for a good, proper operation. So if you've decided that you're not, or you're looking at the alternatives, I mean, what are they? Look, there's several that have been out there for years, but I think the most popular at this point right now, if you're not going to operate your own golf shop, is to rent it out to a third party. Now there's within that option, there's a few subcategories. You can just go ahead and rent the space to somebody. It can be completely separate from the rest of your operations. So again, someone checking in to come play golf and go use your facility doesn't have to go to the golf shop. It's there off to the side if they choose to go for it. And that person just pays you a monthly rent, and you walk away at the end of the month, end of the year with your rental income. Maybe you're happy. There's a profit share model. Again, now you're starting to get into somebody that comes in, operates on your behalf, and you literally just split whatever the profits are, or a hybrid of the two, someone who's paying for the rental space, but you're also getting a portion of the profit that comes out of the top. These are all viable options with various levels of complication as to how you need to track it. Obviously, the simplest one is the top. Rent it out, collect a check at the end of the month, and you're done. The other ones, I think, are, if you're not looking to run your own operation, I think might make a little more sense if you're still looking for a heightened level of branding and quality, because when both your retail partner and yourself have benefit in it being successful, then there's maybe a more likely chance that you'll be working together as good partners to make that successful. And have a little bit more influence over what's going on to maintain and achieve the goals that your club needs. I threw this in here. This is the old school golf pro model. I think most people, I'm trying not to date myself because, this model is more or less gone. But back in the day when I started, there were a lot of golf professionals that owned the shop, and they actually got paid a retainer by the club to operate the shop and also take in all of the money for the club. So the golf professional runs, operates, and owns the shop, and is actually paid to staff the shop. The shop is where people check in for their golf, and all the money comes through the till for the club. Not a very popular model anymore. In fact, I would say when I left Canada, one of the last golf professionals I worked for was kind of the last man standing that owned his own golf shop in Canada. They've all very much gone to the model of either having a retail partner or employing the golf professional to run the shop on behalf of the club. The other thing to, and this is, I would say, a little bit more for very, very small market clubs, areas. You don't have to have a full service golf shop. Again, if you're just looking at having the necessities, and you're not the type of facility that's going to see benefit from retail, and for that matter, partners also see that and are not interested to do it, you probably still just need to have a basic counter at your check-in where you've got the basic consumables like balls and tees and accessories. And if you have a dress code, making sure that there's a shirt available that in case, somebody doesn't come without the right dress. So these are some of the options that you have, and they definitely need to be explored. Like I said, tagging on to everything else that we were talking about earlier, all those factors. So I'm going to go through now, basically the answers we had for Laguna National. Well, we asked ourselves those questions. For us, again, the profit, the brand recognition, and the experience were extremely important. Is it a major factor in our branding? Yes, we felt so. So that was a driving force. Does it tie in with our other profit centers? Absolutely. And again, because we control those profit centers, the connection there is something that we have some level of control over. So it was important to us. Do we have the qualified staff? Yes. At the time, our managing director was a PGA member, myself in place. We also had a guy in for our retail, for our driving range operation, who also has a background in golf and in the professional, circuit in that sense. And then obviously made the decision and brought in another manager. Does our club infrastructure suit it? Absolutely. And I'll show you a couple slides later that show that. And did we have the commitment and buy-in of our stakeholders? Yes. Our owners understood and could see the benefit of this. And in fact, long before I even arrived, we're already making steps to at least create that club infrastructure that some retailer would be successful. Now, whether that was going to be us or an outside operator, there was a lot of foresight and a lot of effort put into that to make sure that retail was going to be a big part of the club. So our alternatives were the retail chain partner, but looking at all the factors above, we made that decision that it was important for us to control it and took that on. So for us, it was an opportunity. We were in 2016, we were actually, we had one course that was just about to go into renovation. Our clubhouse was under construction and we were building everything new. So we had the opportunity to start with a clean slate. We had a vision that we wanted to create an experience for our members, and that the retail was a big part of that. And like I said, it was an important part for us. We thought of the entire resort, and with everything coming up with the new hotel as well, having more overseas guests coming in, retail has a little more option for having souvenirs and everything else. We believe that controlling this was obviously the best way for us to maximize our overall business plan. And ultimately, we did a lot of research, planned our strategy, and then ultimately committed to that and committed to our goals and have executed. Not a small task, though. Biggest thing here, again, it's a long-term commitment. We continue to monitor, we drive it, and we adapt it on a monthly basis. And that's not just because of the changing situations of COVID, it's just the nature of the retail business. So this is just a slide that I think people can actually look back on and think, well, what do I do once I might have decided to take on retail? Well, obviously you have to have a very comprehensive business plan. The things that I put in there, not to forget, inventory. You'll see inventory highlighted there because it's extremely important, and it can be the thing that makes or breaks a retail operation. I think we've all seen golf shops where you walk in and they have so many shirts on the wall that you cannot see anything because they have overstocked their shop. Then they get stuck in the cycle of always having sales and nobody wants to pay full price. Inventory is a risk and it is a liability, so it's something you have to be very, very conscious of. And don't forget those additional overheads that a lot of people don't think about. They often get stuck on what's my cost price, what's my selling price, what's my profit. That's only part of the equation. Of course, you have additional overheads with staff, utilities, supplies, your operating costs, decorating, all kinds of things. So again, we've talked about location, design, and layout. And I'm going to show you a few slides that help you see what we've done and what we have at Laguna National. Your brand partners are important, your inventory mix, and then the actual execution of it. Opening with that inventory, remember the word inventory. Ongoing marketing, customer engagement, pricing, inventory management. Again, service standards and differentiation. What are you going to do to set yourself apart from everyone else? And now after you see that, I'd go back to slide 3 and answer those questions again, because if you can do and get through this and you look at all those items right there and go, yeah, I'm still excited, then opening your retail operation might be for you. If this looks like it's a really daunting task, you may want to consider the alternatives. So just a bit again about our journey here at Laguna National. Again, like I said, and this is my journey in a sense, I arrived here in March 2016, and we were operating out of a temporary clubhouse with a service counter that was very much what I was talking about before. Some shirts, balls, hats, a belt to keep your shorts up, and the basics there that somebody needed to get out onto the golf course. And it was being actually operated in a sense by a third-party retailer. And I made quick work of that to get that changed so that we at least controlled our own destiny in that, and took it over as a little bit of a small proof of concept. And then in July of 2018, we opened Laguna Practice, which had a 500 square foot concept shop. So again, that gave us a chance to also see how the retail market was going to work for us in a very small scale as we built up, and we're planning for our eventual opening of the shop, which is our 2020 opening last year, 2,500 square foot luxury boutique style shop. So Laguna Practice here, again, these are just a couple of pictures. We have the Top Tracer range there. That's a picture of our short game facility, which is just immaculate. Again, integral for different things. We do all kinds of demos out there and fitting sessions, which helps us drive retail sales. Ledbetter Golf Academy, again, the integration with our students and them having to buy equipment and such. That's just a little shot of the shop. You'll see this shop down there is a little different look than the pictures you'll see later of our main shop. This one, we kind of let our retail partners come in and actually do some of the fit out for the branding. Our main focus down there is golf clubs. That's what you're buying at the driving range. We certainly have a selection of shoes and shirts and balls and such, but very limited. One thing to note, what we've done in there is that all of the golf clubs in that shop are demo products. We really believe that it's important people try it before they buy it. And again, have a lot of regular fitting and demo sessions and activities for people to get in there and start buying. And this is our shop. So this is the shop. So this one is about 2,500 square feet. It's our primary retail space at Laguna National and also for the Dusitani Laguna Singapore. It's our central check-in for all our golfers that are playing. So this is a big important part of it. I'll show you a little bit more on the location slides here, but every golfer that comes to our facility has to check in or at least walk through our golf shop to get out to the golf course. And we're open from 6:30 in the morning till 9 p.m., 365 days a year. This is just a little overview of our facility here. And if you look at that, you'll see number one there on the left, the kind of yellow section, that's our golf lobby. And that's where everybody comes into our property. With the exception of some checking in at the hotel lobby, everybody comes into the entire property there. Number two, which you'll see in kind of the orange shaded section, that is the shop. So effectively, every person that sets foot on our property coming in through that golf lobby is going to see the shop. So even if they're not golfing, they're going to see it. You see the restaurant down there is the all-day dining restaurant for our hotel. So again, everybody that comes from the hotel that's going to have breakfast, lunch, or any other meal there is going to be coming down the corridor and actually see our shop at number 2 there. 3A and B are our changing rooms. Number 4 is our departure hall. And that sends you out to the golf course. So every person has to go from 1 through to 5, obviously passing through 2 to get to the golf course. And then when they leave the property, they got to do it backwards. So we actually get them twice, once on the way in, once on the way out. And if we're lucky, they've had a few sodas at the restaurant and maybe a little more loose with their wallets on the way out. I don't want to get into great detail. I mean, you can look at this slide a little bit later, but this is just an overall layout of our shop. Kind of apparels to the outsides. We've got a nice window display, premium goods with our logos. But that shop, that check-in and the desk is right in the center, our big point of sale station, where we also have all the items like balls, gloves, accessories. The fast moving things are right there on the counter for people to be able to grab easy as they go out. So just going to talk a little bit about branding here, and start off with showing the 2 logos here. I mean, Laguna National is obviously our logo for the club. This was a logo that we came out with, I think back in 2017, 2018 was a rejuvenation of our logo. But you look at the one for the shop. A lot of people have asked me, why did we call it just the shop? But to be honest with you, it was intentionally a bit generic. And the reason for that is because we have a hotel on the property and we want and will have a gift shop section in our golf shop. And we didn't want people to be too worried that it was just a golf shop. So we wanted it to be quite generic. You can see the little pin flag in the letter P. So there's still a golf flavor to it, but it was important to us that it was a little bit more generic and less of a I guess, a barrier for people wanting to maybe set foot in, even if they're not a golfer. Last thing that just popped up there is just an adaptation of our logo that we're working on as just an icon without the words. A little bit of one of those kind of almost like a member's logo. You see that, if you know, you know, and if you don't, well, that's okay. It's still a cool golf logo. These are the brands that we have in our shop. There's more, but these are probably the key ones. I think one thing to highlight is that actually we only have one, two, three, four golf clubs actually. We're working on a fourth right now, but Titleist, TaylorMade, and Ping are the keys. Retail with our men's apparel, for example, we have 4 product lines, 4 brands. It's not complicated, but it works. And in some cases, I think less is more. So these are some of the recognizable brands that we associate ourselves with and help keep ourselves at a certain level of branding as well. So that's our storefront. It's a nice inviting thing. We've got the window display that will actually get people wearing our mannequins wearing casual wear from Hugo Boss and some of the other brands, again, just to highlight that it's not just a golf shop. That's our Hugo Boss corner right up front and to the left. This is our little gift section, which right now is very golf focused, but as the hotel starts to pick up with overseas visitors, we'll be turning that into some more souvenir items that are Singapore based. But just a few of the features, you know, we've got a feature table there that's got all of the Laguna logo merchandise on it. A couple of pillars that are in the midst of the shop where we can have some, I guess we call kind of action stations with the mannequins and different display items. It's a huge shop. That's our check-in counter. So it's actually got 4 seats, four check-in areas for our staff. Again, you see all the golf clubs, golf driving range, or the head covers and gloves and everything are all very easily accessible. We've used every bit of space that we can on the back of that pillar there where the Oakley case is. That's where you see the belt rack. So again, not really tucked away, but definitely off to a little bit of a different space, but also very cleanly displaying the belts. Our shoe wall, we deal strictly with FootJoy. All of the styles on the right are ones that we sell direct. And then on the left is the MyJoys, which are custom order. Our hat wall, where we've got various different adaptations of the logo as well from one of our hat suppliers. So keeps things interesting for customers. Our bag showcase, you'll see my bag up there. That was just as a sample because we do custom embroidery for our customers. And this is just what one of our display racks looks like and kind of the standards that we look for. Again, not jamming things in, but looking for a clean, fresh look and adaptable to be able to move the product around. All of the branding you see is very subtle there. You see the FootJoy signs at the top. This is something that we wanted to do, is keep the shop looking like our shop and not being too branded out with various different clashing marketing campaigns. Again, just some of the Laguna National merchandise. And so that's just a little bit of a tour of just the areas in our shop. I'll try to wrap things up here in about 2 minutes. Just with a couple of key things that I think people should focus on. And I think there's a couple different areas here. I mean, operating your golf shop needs to make sense for you and your facility. So I hope I've kind of put that message through. This is not a sale to go out and rush and do it, because it's not easy. It's a lot of work. The benefits are great as well, but it does need to work for your facility, and you have to be able to answer yes to many of those questions at the beginning. Like I said, it requires a tremendous amount of planning and investment. You need to have a good location for your shop. You need to have the construction. You need to have good people. You need to manage that inventory. You need software to manage these things. A lot of time and energy into relationships and everything else to actually build the list, like I say, goes on. So like I said to you, if you've answered yes to most of those questions up on slide 3, then you need to explore it for sure. Because the benefits can be fantastic for your facility. Like I said, having control of your retail can certainly help improve your branding, your overall customer experience, and your reputation and eventually your overall financial success of your facility. So I think at the end of the day, if you do make that decision and you have the yeses and you have the commitment from your board and your owners and you invest in the right people, then you can take the plunge. Absolutely. But it is something that you certainly aren't going to make that decision overnight. I mean, I think our ownership had been planning the retail location for years. Wasn't 100% on whether we were going to operate it or not. But there was always a commitment to a top level experience. And then as I came in with our team and added to the team, we were able to make that decision that it was going to be best for us to do. But it certainly took their support all the way through. So as far as the retail portion it goes, match the product you have to the customers you have, and then reach a bit higher, because sometimes people are willing to spend a little bit more than you think. It's very important that you start to work with brands who want to work with you. We've been very fortunate like that with Hugo Boss, with FootJoy, Titleist. Titleist and FootJoy have been our biggest supporters, in a sense that we've worked very tightly together. I've known them for many years, so it's been very, very beneficial for us, and they're great partners to have. If we didn't have great partners like that, it would be very difficult. Ensure you have a good mix of stuff from a retailer, from somebody who goes in and does orders. Focus on stuff that your customers need, not what you think they need or what you like. Proof positive, I'm wearing this pink shirt. It's not exactly popular with a whole lot of people, but you know what? You got to look at what your customers are looking for. Then exhaust all the channels to sell. You've got lots of opportunities, so make sure you take advantage of them. I'll say this again in giant letters: manage your inventory. It's going to make or break you. So have somebody who understands it and somebody who can really do a good job of it. And then look at how you can differentiate yourself, because there's lots of people out there selling stuff. The world of online marketing and online sales is just booming. But ultimately, if you have good brand strength, you have some customized services, use some unique products, and then probably more importantly, some people who really look after your customers. And that's kind of the last point. Look after your customers and they'll look after you. You do a good job and you're genuine, they will be loyal to you. And that's kind of my last parting thought on this. I know there's a lot of information there, and I may or may not have touched on something that everybody was looking for. I'm obviously open to some questions here, but I also on the slide here have my contact details. So if anybody is keen, you can take that down, send me an email. I am extremely busy right now, and I will get back to you, but it might take a couple of days. So thank you for the chance to present, and happy to answer some questions.
Mark, just before we go to the questions, congratulate you on a fantastic presentation. Really, really comprehensive. And I can say from personal experience, having visited the shop, and setup is wonderful. And the whole facility out there at Laguna National and the Dusitani is just set up for success. So the golf course is in great shape. The F&B out in the course, the entertainment, the member area, and the hotel all looks great. So I'm sure those of us who live here have the benefit of being able to see it now. Mm-hmm. I'm very sure that once travel resumes, you're going to have so many people coming into your golf shop wanting that shirt and those merchandise. I think it's going to be a real winner, highlighted by when people travel back. So thanks once again. Let's jump into the questions here. We have a few from Yanis in Australia. We have a question: is how important will an online store access be in the future, or is it already so? We've started talking about that.
It's a great question. It's not something that we have available yet. To be honest, we simply have not had the time to put into it. And it's something that I think, like anything, if you're going to do it, you need to do it right. And I think a lot of people try to venture out into it, and then things are available on the web and at all hours of the day, and you have to be prepared to be able to service that all hours of the day, or be able to look at integration of inventory. Again, I can put something up online and sell it, but if it really needs to have a good back end to be able to track and know whether you've even got that product to sell. Otherwise, you risk having sales go through that you can't satisfy. And I think that becomes a big source of liability for people. So for us right now, we're focusing on the in-house, in-person transactions because our golf club is busier than it's ever been right now with COVID situation. So we're really looking after the people face to face. It's something that we will look at as far as online in the future, but quite frankly, the way that we're differentiating ourselves right now is based on the service and the quality and the uniqueness that we can provide. Ultimately, if people want cheaper golf balls, they can get it many different places. If they want cheaper golf clubs, they can do that too. We've even had people come for custom fittings and then go buy it somewhere else. That's just the nature of our business. But at the end of the day, we are providing a great service to people, and that hand-to-hand touch is the thing that's actually, I think, making us a lot more successful. So we're focusing on that right now. But yeah, online will be something that we look at maybe implementing when we think it can really add to the experience, I guess.
Thanks, Mark. A question from Mark, most recently from Seattle, now in Singapore. He asks, I know it will vary by country, market profile of facility, etc. But as a general rule of thumb for budgeting purposes, what would you say is a good average golf shop spend per round at a private or resort or semi-private facility?
I wish I had an answer for you on that, Mark. Honestly, it's something that we are in the midst of putting together at this point, from our own data, to be honest with you. It's something that we don't have access to a lot of data here. Again, there's not, a bunch of golf professionals that are sharing that information. The other thing that's been skewing that number dramatically has been sheerly the amount of rounds of golf right now. So it's, I don't have an answer for you on that, but I would say that if you're looking at the difference between those facilities, you're probably going to have higher spending and would expect some higher spending per person at resort clubs and places where people are coming in who may not come back. So certainly there, if you're looking at percentages of people that are going to buy a shirt or a hat or something to take home to their friends, that's definitely going to be higher. But I mean, private clubs, some of them with their shops can be as little as $6, $8, $10 because the members have bought that shirt 24 years ago and they're still wearing it. So, and they do buy their golf balls from the guy in, off the ferry terminal when they do get to travel. So it's, I honestly don't have an answer for you on that because it's, for us, we're looking at how we're going to try to achieve and improve ours. And that's just not information that we share at this point.
And we have a question from Patrick, who's intimately involved in the development of facility. And he asks, hi, Mark, just wondering if you decided to hire a full-time retail professional and was that worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to say this was probably, it turned out being about a year out before we opened the shop that we brought in our retail manager, and it was a great addition to the team. We had a few delays in the final opening of our shop, but we did bring him in consciously about 8 months before when we planned to open, and then things got delayed a little bit. But it was absolutely integral, I think, given the amount of time that I had to be able to dedicate to getting everything together for the golf shop, it's not something I was going to be able to do. And in order to have the attention to detail, to be able to plan out and have that merchandise coming in on time and being there and then manage the actual sale of it and replenishment of it. Again, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it needs somebody who knows what's going on. Ben was a great guy and had a lot of experience in the golf industry, a PGA professional as well, and run retail operations before. I do think it was probably a little bigger than what he'd done in the past, but it was, it's all scalable. So that knowledge is absolutely paramount. It was definitely worth it, and is something that we're obviously we're going to be looking to replace as well, because it's a very important part of our operations now, the retail. So yeah, absolutely worth it, and would definitely and will be doing it again.
Thanks, Mark. I have a question before we sign off. And I should probably be asking the brands this, but do you have any feedback from the brands on what they prefer as far as a business model? Would they prefer to be having a contract outsourced model with the clubs, or have the direct management? I know it's a tough question to generalize, especially here in Southeast Asia.
It's maybe
But
a dangerous question.
idea? Yeah.
No, I think, look, I mean, the people that we work with, they value it. You know, having said that, some of them probably do better financially by dealing with some of the distributor type models and dealing with the big box people. So I think it's going to be a bit of a mixed reaction. I think from the supplier standpoint, or the vent, you know, they need everybody as well. You know, they need to be able to work well with everyone. So the other business models will work for them in certain circumstances. But I would say probably on our side, where someone would see an advantage is the customer loyalty and the connection. Because we help provide that, then there's a little more connection with the brand, such as Titleist. You know, we have a lot of loyal Titleist customers because we do a lot of Titleist fittings, and that's something that's important to that brand, and it's important to us, and it's important to the customer. So that connection is great. At the same time, is Titleist going to sell a lot more golf balls through one of the stores downtown? Probably. So it's extremely important for them, I think, to have both. You know, it's I think, of course, they always like to be dealing with people who are you know, golf enthusiasts, but you know, the big box retailers have those people too. They have golf enthusiasts. So I think they would tell you that everyone's important to them, and they're both very positive things, just in different ways. Like I say, ours is just a little bit more of that individual touch and getting out to the customers with a better relationship, maybe because our members are here a lot, or even the guests that we have are people that we know well, as opposed to someone just kind of passing by and purchasing something.
Thanks, Mark. Just like to thank you again for a fantastic presentation. Really enjoyed it. Full of information. And for everybody, we'll be following up with an email with Mark's contact details that you can ask him directly questions. And we will be posting this as per usual on the AGIF YouTube website. So you can rewatch it, refer it to people who were not able to watch it live. But Mark, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Now, just like some more housekeeping. First of all, to everybody who attended, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend. In the next couple of weeks, we do have a few more presenters. Stephen Tucker, Director of Golf Course and Landscape Operations at the Four Seasons Hotel and Resort in Orlando, is going to be talking about all things equipment management, and that'll be in March 25th, 2021 at 10 a.m. Singapore time. And then we have Dr. Sorakan, Distinguished Professor of Turfgrass Science, Management and Plant Sciences Department at the University of Tennessee, and his topic will be shade and the effects of low light on turfgrass. He will be on April 15th on Thursday, April 15th at 4 p.m. Singapore time. All of this is available on our website, and it's just the start of a fantastic 2021 schedule. So please continue to check on the website. So that's it for now. I'd like to wish you all a great rest of the week and weekend, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you very much.